All right, welcome to the first ever episode of the Man in Black podcast. I am Josh Mancuso. This guy is Todd Blackledge. He's the expert. I'm the comedian, and we're going to talk college football. Todd, how's it
Yes,
going,
sir.
man?
Doing good, man. Doing good. We had a fun week. Really some exciting games over the weekend in week four of the college football season.
Yeah, we did. Let's just dive right in right now. Let's
Yeah.
get into it. All right, so you called the Ohio State Notre Dame game.
Yeah.
Did that game go the way you thought it would go?
I knew it was going to be a close game and would go into the fourth quarter. I thought it was a very evenly matched game going in, and it sure proved out to be that way. I mean, it was a really, really good football game. I know, if you're looking for just a bunch of scoring and high flying numbers, that wasn't the game. It was a hard fought, physical game that literally went down to the last play. And so, we couldn't have asked for anything more at NBC. The game lived up to the hype. It was a tremendous atmosphere in South Bend. Not just game night, but I mean the entire weekend. There was just a build up and an energy and a vibe that was really, really special. So it was a lot of fun to be a part of.
I think for me, I do my weekly picks for all the games, and I take them very seriously. Okay, and
Okay.
I want them to be good. I went 8-3 this past
That's
week.
pretty good. Yeah.
It's not bad, but this was a game I missed. I missed Ohio State and Notre Dame. I picked Notre Dame. I really felt like they have something special this year, and they may still have that. Obviously, they may win the rest of their games.
Yeah.
But what were your impressions of Notre Dame as a team, and
Yeah.
can they win the rest of their games and make a playoff appearance?
I think they're really good. And, they very easily could have won that game. And in some ways, you might even say they should have won the game. They kind of had some control in the game. They were moving the football, running the ball really well. Their last possession, they had one negative play against them, and then they tried a screen pass. It was incomplete, and they ended up giving the ball back to Notre Dame or to Ohio State, and the Buckeyes got to keep one of their timeouts. But you got to give credit to Ohio State and Kyle McCord. I mean, this was his first year as a starting quarterback. And I mean, he did something that nobody thought maybe he'd be able to do to drive his team in the last minute and a half like that. Uh, Hit some clutch throws, hit a clutch 4th and 10 play, hit a 3rd and 19 play to get him to the 1 yard line. Beautiful throws. So it was very impressive what they did. But as far as Notre Dame, I think they're a really good football team. I think because of Sam Hartman, they've got a chance to win any game that's left on their schedule. They got a very good defense, a very good offensive line. They just didn't execute some things down the stretch. They gave up the play on 3rd and 19. They missed a couple 4th and 1 plays. I didn't really love the call on either of the 4th and 1 plays. And then the last two plays of the game, unfortunately for them, and just because of a lack of communication, on their sidelines, they played the last two plays of the game with only 10 guys on the field. So it's hard enough going 11 on 11, but when you go 11 on 10 at your own 1 yard line, it's pretty tough.
Yeah, it's hard to beat an offense like that when you're a man down. The fact that those last couple plays reminded me of 2012, I think it was, when Derek Dooley at Tennessee, they beat LSU for a second, and then realized the penalty at the end was that they had 12 men on the field.
I remember that. Did he
Yeah,
have his orange pants on that night?
you know, I
He-
think he probably did.
Yeah, yeah,
I
that
think he
was
probably did.
that was a real fashion statement. Those
It
pants.
was. It was. I could see you in some orange pants.
Nah, don't think so.
Okay.
No.
No. All right.
I had orange pants as basketball warm-up pants when I was in high school because the Hoover Vikings colors were orange and black. So, there was a time when I wore orange pants, but not like out to dinner or anything
Right.
like that.
Right. Not out in
To
public.
warm up, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
no, that makes sense. Although if you cut next time you're in Knoxville, we should get you some orange and white checkered overalls. Those are
Yeah,
pretty popular.
yeah. Really? They
This,
are.
yeah. What would it take to get Todd Blackledge in a pair of orange and white checkered overalls?
Maybe, well, my wife she loves Halloween. I mean, she loves it, and so maybe for a dress up situation,
Yeah.
I don't know what I would explain that I was, if somebody asked me, I guess just a diehard Vol fan, maybe, I guess.
That's it for Halloween. You got your costume figured out. Got me the checkered overalls. You can borrow my mullet.
Yeah, coonskin hat. Oh, the mullet. Yeah, your
Mullet,
mullet.
coonskin hat goes a Tennessee fan. But the whole time you're there, you have to be complaining about something because that's what Tennessee fans like. They like to complain about the quarterback situation or complain about why we only scored 45 points. We should have scored, 100.
Yeah.
So it's while we're on Tennessee, let's just go there. You were calling a game, so you probably didn't get to see the Vols in action, maybe, but they had that loss to Florida
Right.
in the swamp. A lot of people thought they could go down there and get it done. I thought they would. The swamp is a really tough place to play for anybody. Florida turns out maybe a little better than we thought. I don't know. Their quarterback Graham Mertz certainly has impressed recently, but the Vols, then they beat UTSA pretty solidly. But a lot of Tennessee fans calling for Coach Heupel to make some kind of changes. Take Joe Milton out and put in the freshman Nico, which I have my own opinion on that I can share in just a moment. But I would love to hear your opinion on what you would do if you were a coach.
Yeah, well, first of all, I've not really studied their games. I mean, I know they did not play, as expected down in Florida. And as you mentioned, I mean, I've done plenty of Florida Tennessee games in both Knoxville and Gainesville. And when that place is lit up and it's hot and it's as loud as any place in college football. And so, they went into a hostile situation and they got it handed to them down there. They rebounded with a good win. Yeah, my opinion, Joe Milton has earned this opportunity. He's been the good soldier. I mean, he was Hooker's bet. They were best friends and roommates, and he supported him, and he's put his time in. And they only have one loss. So to me,
Right.
it's like, don't panic, don't jump ship, don't abandon your quarterback right now because I think his experience and his just maturity from an age standpoint is better off for you right now than going to a young guy.
Yeah, 100% agree on that. I think that Joe Milton is a great quarterback, and I think who knows what may happen with any teams. Tennessee may win the rest of their games. They may upset some people. They may, or they may not. But Joe Milton has definitely earned the right to keep that position, and why go to an untested freshman quarterback? I remember fans, when Joshua Dobbs was there, and had some struggles even in his senior year. Fans were calling for them to put in was Garantano at that point. I'm not sure if Garantano was his freshman at that point, and I'm thinking why, then Garantano came along and everybody's calling for them, to change out him and give somebody else. So I think fans, what should fans' expectations be, when they are watching their team play and they're, help take us into the mind of a quarterback and what they're dealing with, as they're trying to take their team. You think Joe Milton didn't want to win in Florida, right? Like he wants to win more than anybody. So, what do you think?
Well, I think most fan bases, they're the good part is the passion, and they're there and they're engaged and they want to support. The bad news is there are so many unrealistic expectations most of the time,
Yeah,
and the expectations are just off the charts. And I think the biggest thing that fan bases need to remember is these are 18 to 22-year-old kids that are out on the field playing. They got girlfriend issues. They're going to class. Most of them, they're doing all kinds of other things. They've got dynamics at home that nobody knows about, family issues. Maybe somebody got an illness. We don't know about and they're young, right? And so, they're not going to play the same way every game, every week. And I think more realistic expectations would benefit everybody.
absolutely.
So here, I got a question for you since we're on the SEC, and
Okay.
I know you would probably just want to talk about Tennessee the whole time, because you love the Falls. But
I had some other notes here after
and,
Tennessee. Yeah.
okay, but you know what? I will tell you this one other story because you brought up Joshua Dobbs. So we
Yes.
always meet with players. When we go to do a game, we'll meet with the head coach on Friday with the home team. We'll meet with the head coach, offense and defensive coordinators, and usually a couple players. And a lot of the players are kind of the same. They just kind of do it because they're supposed to. Every now and then you get a player who's very interesting to talk to, very engaging, very different, unique. Uh, when we sat down with Josh Dobbs, however many years ago, he was unique. I mean, first of all, he came into the meeting on one of those like hoverboards, like he kind of rode into the meeting on one of these hoverboards, and or it wasn't a hover, yeah, it was something like that, whatever it was,
Some kind of newfangled technology.
yeah, and then the old saying we say, well, hey, it's not rocket science, right? Football's not rocket science. But he basically majored in like rocket science. He was like an aeronautical engineering, brainiac, right? So just talking to him, he was so different, just a whole different outlook on everything, not just football. So anyway, he was one of those meetings that you always remember because he made
Yeah.
made an interesting impression on it. So
Oh yeah.
here's my question for the SEC, right?
Okay. All right.
Um, people want to say, "Oh, the SEC's down. It's not dominant. Not the same." There are three undefeated teams right now in the SEC. Now, I'm going to give you, Georgia's one. Who are the other two? Do you know?
Other two undefeated teams are Missouri
Yep.
and uh,
They have a big game this week.
yeah, who was the other team that's undefeated? So you got me at a loss in the moment. Missouri and
Kentucky, the Kentucky
Kentucky.
Wildcats. They host.
Kentucky.
Yeah. Georgia, Missouri, and Kentucky are the three undefeated teams in the SEC right now.
Yep, the blue bloods of the SEC there. Kentucky and Vanderbilt started out 2-0.
Yeah, I know they did.
That was interesting. Well,
Yeah.
it'll be fun to see what happens in the SEC. It's sort of I guess it's anybody's game except for Georgia. Maybe they seem to be on top there. Okay, but let's go back. You mentioned quarterbacks. Did you have another question, or was that okay?
No, not right now.
No, right now, maybe later. As I say something else stupid, then you can
Yeah.
have a question to say, would you ever say that? That's why people are going to love this podcast, because I'll say all the dumb stuff and then you can correct me and say all the good
I'll do it
stuff.
in a nice way though. That's the same way like
Thanks.
when I broadcast, like I'm a former player. My dad was a coach. I know how hard it is to play in the moment, how hard it is to coach. So, when I give my opinion,
Mhm.
I'm paid to do that, but I do it in a way, I try to do it in a way where I'm not, ripping a guy's character or tearing a guy down. So you can
Right.
always remember that, no matter how dumb of a thing you say, I,
Mhm.
I won't ever throw you under the bus.
I
You know,
appreciate that,
Yeah.
because you're
I'll
definitely not getting paid for this.
That's true. No, no. I'm just hoping to get another hat, maybe, at some point. Man
I
in
love.
black, man in black hat or something.
Yeah, we look pretty good in our black.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, so we were talking about quarterbacks earlier, and yeah, all the quarterbacks. You mentioned, you're 18 and 22 years old. I mean, you got dealing with a lot of things. And well, unless you're Bo Nix, then you're like 30 years old
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
his
I
12th
think
year of eligibility.
we're finally done. I'm hoping. I love Bo Nix. I couldn't be happier for him because he played under
Yeah,
so much duress and pressure as a legacy guy at Auburn, and he never reached his full potential. And he kind of bore the weight of that, right?
yeah,
And so he went about as far away from Auburn as he could possibly go, out to Eugene. And he has just had such, I mean, the last 2 years of his career has been like so reinvigorating for him and such a change. And I'm happy for him because he's a great kid. And obviously played well this past weekend, as Oregon kind of brought the Colorado Buffaloes down to earth a little bit with a 42-6 beatdown. But Oregon's a really
yeah,
good football team. Bo Nix is playing at an extremely high level, and you've got 3, 4 legitimate Heisman Trophy candidate quarterbacks playing in the conference formerly known as the Pac-12. I mean, it's the last year that we'll see the Pac-12. But you got Caleb Williams at USC, who won it last year, is still playing at a very high level. You've got Michael Penix Jr. at Washington. Washington's playing as good as anybody in college football right now.
oh yeah,
He's directing this incredibly high-powered offense. You got Bo Nix. Cam Rising from Utah is undefeated, and he hasn't even played yet. The starting quarterback of Utah, and he's really
right.
when they get him back. And there's a kid that probably nobody knows about, Cameron Ward at Washington State. I mean, he
Yeah.
transferred from I want to think it's Incarnate Word where he was playing an FCS program, and he transferred to Washington State last year, and he played really well last year, and he had a huge game. You know, the two teams that are kind of left in the Pac-12,
Yeah.
Oregon State and Washington State, both good football teams, and it was a shootout of a game, and he threw for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns, and Washington State won that game against the Beavers of Oregon State. So, I mean, it is a really, really good quarterback conference. And then, you throw Shedeur Sanders into that mix now this year at Colorado. It literally, there's 4 or 5 quarterbacks that are as good as anyone in college football.
Yeah, absolutely. That's cool to hear that those guys all have that elite capability. And you mentioned Shedeur Sanders, and we talked about Oregon. So that was one of my picks. I picked Oregon to beat Colorado. I think a lot of people thought they would come in there and get destroyed, which is kind of what happened. So the fairy tale has kind of ended, but Colorado's still a great team, and I'm sure they're going to have a great season. But they got a tough schedule. I mean,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on what Dion has been able to do there? There's a lot of hype around all that. I mean, the guy's been on 60 Minutes for
Yeah.
goodness sakes. They've had everything is Dion, Dion, Dion. So, what are your thoughts on what Colorado's been able to do?
Well, I think, aside from all that, aside from all the stuff that's out there, the glitz and the glamour, the bottom line is he's done a really good job hiring a staff, coaching a football team, a very competitive football team that was 1-11 last year and couldn't beat anybody. Okay,
Mhm.
so I mean, he totally took over, changed the roster through the transfer portal. He hired really good coaches, really good coordinators, and he's letting them coach. And they're a well-coached team, and they got off to a great start, and they surprised everybody. But I mean, I just remember watching the first game against TCU. I was so blown away by the level of their execution. I mean, just how well they executed on offense. And Shedeur Sanders, was like a perfect fit. Sean Lewis is the offensive coordinator,
Yeah.
was the head coach at Kent State, left a head coaching job to go be the coordinator at Colorado for Dion. He's going to probably be a head coach somewhere next year or somewhere else if Colorado continues to have success, which I think they will. The problem for him is even though he changed the roster, they still probably don't have the kind of depth, particularly up front in the offense and defensive lines, that some of the other teams, the better teams in the Pac-12, that they're going to face, and then next year in the Big 12 that
Mhm.
they'll face, on a week-to-week basis. But what he's doing there is not a fluke. I mean, they're going to
Yeah.
continue to be good because he's going to be able to recruit. Kids are going to want to go play for him. It's like this hip, cool place to play right now, and he's a hip, cool leader. He's a confident guy. He's won everywhere he's been, but at the end of the day, and I know this just from talking to some guys that are on his coaching staff, at the end of the day, he is a guy who really, really cares about his players
Mm.
and cares about what's important to them, and I think that's really cool. So again, I think people form their impressions of Dion, right or wrong based on what they maybe see or hear. And I don't know him, like I've not really spent time, but I just know some people that work for him that say he's really a good dude who really cares about the kids.
You can see that, and and Dion is he's a personality. He's a kind of larger than life
Yeah.
kind of personality, and he has a lot of flair and bling that comes with him, and it's fun, it's entertaining, it's great. But I think underneath that, yeah, he seems to be rooted in a foundation that of faith, and a foundation of caring about his student athletes, and that's what matters. And then
Hey, so I
yeah,
do have a question for you now because
okay,
he's not ashamed to talk about this. Did you see where he ranked his children? Like he ranks them in order 1 to 5, so I'm just curious if you've done that with your kids. Have you ranked yours, like who your favorite is? And like he said, I know which
yeah.
one's going to take care of me if I get sick. I know which one that's, going to be the first one that's wanting to get in the trust fund and, all this kind of stuff. So he had a little fun with it, but he was serious.
He was. I didn't see that, but
Yeah.
and I've not. I won't rank my kids on air here because they'll see this, and then I'll be in trouble for a long time. But but I can identify with the three different kids. The one that's going to take care of me when I'm
Yeah.
old is going to be my youngest one. My oldest one is going to be the one that's like out of here and gone. She's going to be the one that, like Bo Nix from Auburn, is like, I'm going to Oregon right after all this. She's going to be like, I'm going to Canada for college. My middle one is the wild card. Who knows what will happen with her? I have no idea. So, but that
Yeah.
younger one, the
She
baby,
got that area.
yeah,
Yeah.
she's sticking around. What
Good.
about you? Did you rate? You got your boys?
Yeah. No, I've never rated them. That's a good. I might start thinking about that though.
I would,
Yeah. Yeah.
especially
They're all different though. They're all four completely different personalities. That's for sure.
yeah,
So,
yeah. That's good. Well, all right. So another big game we had would be Florida State and Clemson.
yeah. Great.
Clemson. I think there's a P in there supposedly.
Clemson. Yeah.
Clemson, Florida State and Clemson. Anything surprise you about that game? And it ended up being pretty close.
Yeah.
And they're calling Jordan Travis the Tiger King now after taming the LSU Tigers and the
Uh,
Clemson Tigers.
yeah.
So, what are your
Yeah.
thoughts?
Well, Florida State continues to impress. If you look at an early season resume, for the month of September, nobody has a better resume with those two wins.
Yeah,
There was kind of a neutral site game when they beat LSU, but this was in Death Valley, against Clemson, and Clemson actually played well. Their offense actually outgained Florida State. They had over 400 yards.
yeah,
Klubnik, the quarterback, played well, but Florida State went in there. They took care of the ball. They had no turnovers, and the one turnover they forced ended up really, I think, was the difference in the game. It felt like as they were getting towards the end of the third quarter that Clemson was kind of seizing control of the game. They were winning by 7. They were driving again, and they missed a blitz pickup. And Kalen DeLoach came in and hit the quarterback, knocked the ball out, picked it up, and ran 56 yards for a touchdown, and it tied the game at 24 all. And that was right at the end of the third quarter. And then, they fought it all the way into overtime and won the game in overtime, with a pass from Jordan Travis to Keon Coleman. So that's an impressive win for Florida State to go in there. And people were wondering, are they ready to assert themselves now this year in the ACC? And they seem to be in a great position to do that. And Clemson, on the other hand, they've got 2 losses in the ACC right now, and I don't know how they get back to a chance of winning the conference championship. But they did play much better, particularly offensively, this past week. The
yeah.
surprise team of the ACC really right now is Duke. Duke beat Clemson early. They continue to be undefeated, and they host Notre Dame this weekend, which is going to be a very interesting game because, how does Notre Dame respond after playing well and well enough to win, but coming up short? Are they able to regroup and go on the road to Duke and
Hmm.
play at a high level? Because Duke is a good football team.
Yeah.
And Mike Elko is an outstanding coach. And so if Notre Dame has any letdown at all, it's going to be a really difficult thing for them. And again, so for Marcus Freeman, last year was his first year as a head coach, right? They played really well in Columbus and lost, but they
Hmm.
played well. They're competitive. They came home and they lost at home to Marshall the next week. All right. Complete letdown. So, how far has he grown and matured as a head coach and their team? Again, it helps having Sam Hartman, as your quarterback because he's better than anybody they've had for the last several years. But they're going to have to play a good ball game and get over the Ohio State loss quickly to get ready for Duke.
Yeah, that's a great point, and you always wonder how teams are going to respond to a loss like that. Are they gonna bounce back and use it as fuel to then go
Right.
and possibly crush Duke, right? Or are they gonna kind of dwindle and then come in here not feeling good about themselves and allow Duke to push them around? But Duke's the real deal, and it's been pretty cool to see what they've done over there. In fact, 2 of my surprise teams, I was talking with some friends earlier in the season. I said I think Duke and North Carolina, both out of the ACC, are going to be legitimate ACC title contenders. Of course, with Clemson slipping, Florida State is kind of on top there. But yeah, Duke and North Carolina, man, not just basketball schools anymore.
No. Yeah, well, North Carolina, the biggest surprise about them you knew they were going to be good on offense because of Drake May. I mean, their quarterback is going to be, one of the
Yeah.
top selections in the draft, right? When he goes out, so you knew they'd be good on offense. But what's surprising how good of defense they're playing. Their defense is playing.
Mm.
They're very aggressive. They're getting a lot of tackles for loss and sacks. That's what they did to beat South Carolina in the opener. I think they had like 8 or 9 sacks. So their defense is playing better than they've played in a long time. They beat Pitt 41-24, and their schedule will continue to get tougher as they go along. But in fact, I think they might play. I don't know if they play Syracuse this week or they're going to play them pretty soon. And
Mm.
Syracuse is off to an undefeated start as well. So
Yeah.
that's going to be some interesting games down the stretch here for the ACC.
That's right. In fact, we can go over a few of those games right now if you like. Coming up, looks like we've got Friday night. We've got Utah and Oregon State. That's going to be an interesting game. What do you think
Yeah.
about what are Utah's chances of going into? Uh, is it? No, it's not Beaver
Corvallis.
Stadium.
Corvallis.
Corvallis, yeah. Beaver
That's
Stadium is
yeah,
Penn State, which doesn't make
yeah,
any sense,
right,
Todd,
right.
as we've
I,
discussed in the past.
yeah,
So, but
yeah,
the Oregon State Beavers have their own stadium that's not Beaver
right,
Stadium. And
right.
what do you think about Utah going in there? They're going to get it done?
Well, I think Utah's a really good football team, and they're rugged. Their team has always kind of had the personality of their head coach, Kyle Whittingham. I mean, he's a tough guy. They won, they won 14-7 Saturday, beating UCLA. So it
Yeah.
wasn't anything pretty. But again, they've been without their starting quarterback, and I don't know if Cam Rising is back this week or not. I know he's getting closer and closer to being able to play, but they're still finding ways to win. Remember, they won the opener against Florida, which was, kind of the biggest win on their schedule so far.
Yeah.
So they're a veteran team and a confident team. But Corvallis, I mean, that's a hard place to go play. It'll be a lively crowd, and Oregon State is a really good football team. And we talked about Bo Nix getting a new lease on life. It's been kind of cool to see DJ Uiagalelei get a new lease on life, going, again, as far away from Clemson as he could to
Yeah.
Corvallis, Oregon,
That's right.
and has really had a good season so far.
Yeah, I'm excited to see DJ Ukulele do well over there in at Oregon State.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I love that.
Speaking of
Okay.
ukulele, speaking of ukulele, Talia Tungavaloa, to his little brother, who's a quarterback at Maryland,
Yes.
they're off to an undefeated start.
Man.
He had 3 touchdown passes and ran for one in their win over Michigan State on the weekend. They're going to have some big games. They've got Ohio State in 2 weeks. There's a good chance that
Mm.
both teams will be undefeated when the Terps go into Columbus. But the biggest change for them, their defense is playing really, really well. They forced 5 turnovers against Michigan State, and I think they're a legit team. They feel
Mm.
like this is their best team that Mike Locksley has had. This is the first time that he said, "Hey, we can talk about trying to compete for a Big Ten championship." For a while and for his first few years, it looked like they were just way behind Ohio State, Michigan, and even Penn State. But they're playing at a real high level. And the reason I said ukulele is because Talia plays a ukulele and sings
Yeah,
on
nice.
it. And at the Big Ten Media Day, we got him to do it on camera. He's pretty good.
It's
Yeah,
pretty
he's
good,
pretty,
huh?
yeah,
Yeah, very good. That's a good Hawaiian instrument,
yeah,
right,
yeah,
as well. They Hawaiian, right?
yes,
Okay, 'cause that's good. It would have been weird if they weren't, and I would have just put my foot in my mouth once again. What a great weekend for him to do well, though. The same weekend his brother leads the Dolphins
oh my
to a
gosh.
70-30 or 20 or whatever it was thrashing of the Broncos. What in the world?
Ugh.
Did you ever see 70 points in the
No,
NFL when you were?
no, no, no. I mean, I looked at that. Well, first of all, I saw they were up 35-0, I think or 30, whatever, at halftime.
Yeah,
And they had 35 points. I don't remember what Denver had, but I do remember looking at the stats. And in the first half, Tua was perfect. He was 16 for 16, like 205 yards, couple touchdowns. His quarterback rating was as high as it was absolutely perfect. I'm like, the guy hasn't missed a pass. And then obviously he didn't miss many in the second half either. And they scored 70 points. I mean, on another NFL football team, that's shocking. That was
yeah.
shocking to see.
And it kind of was shocking to see it against the Broncos. You think that might happen against maybe a weaker team, although the Broncos struggled last year, but they seem to be in this rebuilding phase with Sean
No,
Payton coming
I
in.
would not expect to see that against any NFL team.
No, any team.
No,
I agree.
seriously, that's now. I mean, Miami is really good. Tua is very good. Their coach is a really creative play caller. I mean, they're good.
Yeah.
But that still is. I mean, you don't expect any NFL defense to give up 70 points.
No, it's pretty embarrassing for the
Yeah,
Broncos,
yeah,
unfortunately. So back to college, it's very interesting that some of these teams that have been flying under the radar, like you mentioned Maryland, Maryland was not on my. I'm not thinking about Maryland. Just like people are not thinking about Duke or they're
right.
not thinking about Kansas.
Yeah.
Who's into the top 25 and does
We'll find
Kansas?
out more about Kansas this week because Kansas
Yeah,
goes to Austin to play Texas, and I think we can all realize and recognize that Texas is legit.
yeah,
What they did going into Tuscaloosa a couple weeks ago, they're legit. They're playing really good football on both sides of the ball. Quinn Ewers is off to a great start, and so I don't know if I first of all look. I think Lance Leopold, the head coach at Kansas, is a great football coach. He was a really good coach at Buffalo. He went to Kansas. He's turned the program around at Kansas. I don't know how long you can sustain success at Kansas. I don't know. He's doing a great job, um, but that is a tall task to go into Austin and hope to beat this Texas team that I think is playing as good as anybody.
yeah. They're awesome right now, and it's cool to see
Yeah.
what they're doing over there. Okay, other games to look out for. What game are you calling this weekend?
So I'm doing Michigan State, who got throttled by Maryland,
Yeah,
against Iowa, who got demolished by Penn State.
yeah,
Now, now, so think about this: that there's been so much talk about Iowa and jokes made about Brian Ferentz, the offensive coordinator, and how bad the Iowa offense has been the last couple years, and he has this contract where if they don't average 25 points a game, he is not going to keep his title of offensive coordinator, whatever. So I'm not sure how all that's going to play out, but I do know this: they got beat 31-0 at the whiteout game by Penn State, but their numbers offensively, I mean, as bad as maybe the Denver Broncos numbers were on defense
yeah.
Saturday or Sunday, these numbers on offense, they ran 33 plays was all they had. Penn State ran 97 plays, 64 more plays in the game. Iowa had 4 first downs, a total of 76 yards. They had 4 fumbles. They were 1 for 9 on third down. And I mean, and normally Iowa's defense is, what keeps them in the games. But
Yeah.
even they had trouble stopping Penn State from just running the football. Penn State ran it 57 times, 215 yards. A very, very impressive win by Penn State, who, I think their young quarterback, Drew Aller, is getting better and better each time out. And, they think this is their year to overtake Ohio State, to overtake a Michigan. They'll play Ohio State in Columbus in a couple weeks. They'll have Michigan at home, a week or so after that. So only time will tell, but they are trending for sure in the right way.
Yeah. Listen, I'm a big believer in Penn State this year, and not just because you and I are friends and you paid me $20 to say that on this podcast.
Right.
I mean, I legitimately believe they are good. In fact, in my, I know you're not big on preseason rankings, but I am because I have nothing to lose because nobody cares what I say. So in mine, I had Penn State up there. think I may have even had them ranked above Ohio State and Michigan. I don't know, but I've had them up there because I really think that they have a chance to be the team in the Big Ten. I think their quarterback Drew Aller. I was impressed. I watched him in the first game. I was like, wow, who's this guy? I didn't know. Maybe the best quarterback they've had in a while as well. I don't know, but Penn State. I think they're legit, man. They're the real deal. How's that for your Penn State grad? You're an alum. You're the great Todd Blackledge. How are we feeling about Penn State?
Yeah, I like their team. I think this is the best team, the most talented and deep team that James has had since he's been there. This is his 10th season. They're really good on defense. They're deep. They've got a lot of depth on defense. They're fast. They've got length. I mean, they're really athletic on defense. And Manny Diaz, the defensive coordinator, they're an attacking, aggressive style defense. kind of defense kids like to play in, because they get
Yeah.
to go fly all over the place. And then, Aller's getting better and better. He's a legitimate big time talent. They've got two sophomore running backs in Singleton and Allen that are both big time players. Their offensive line is good. The one area that Penn State is lagging behind a little bit in is they've got one really good wide receiver, Keandre Lambert-Smith. They've not had a second receiver really emerge yet, and they need that to happen, to win those games that they really want to win down the line.
Yeah.
But right now, I think other than that, they're playing at a very high level.
Okay. Good. All right. A couple more questions here. Let's move on to a couple grilling questions. I'm gonna throw a couple grilling. Yeah.
Okay.
It's tailgate
Okay.
season. All right. So,
Oh, yeah.
and I know you liked a couple of my grill videos I've put out that
Yeah.
have been just,
You look like somebody I could really learn from on the grill.
yeah,
I mean, you
yeah,
seem like you have an expertise that is, pretty good.
yeah. Expertise is not a word that's been used a whole lot to describe my grilling, but entertaining is one that has been. So it's tailgate season. Everybody's, I'm going to be tailgating in Knoxville this weekend after my big live show that I'm doing in Knoxville, right?
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Now,
Millions of people coming.
will you wear the orange and white overalls for your live show or
I will
not?
not be doing that. I will
No.
not.
But
No.
you wanted me to wear them, but you won't wear them.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. Gotcha.
You
All
got
right.
me on that one. All right.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I'll be tailgating, and so when it comes to grilling and
Yeah.
tailgating, somebody on social media asked us, Kelly Kittle Evans, looks like is her handle, her name. She says, "What makes a good tailgate great? Food wise, what makes a good tailgate great? How do you elevate your tailgating game when you're at the game?"
Wow. Um, I think part of it maybe has to do with, with the weather, because I think some things are better when the
Yeah.
weather's cooler,
Mm-hmm.
and some things are better when it's real hot and humid. I kind of like the cooler games personally,
Okay.
so I love, like a great gumbo, on a cooler day, or I like, Italian sausage with peppers and onions that you're cooking and you can just smell that
There we go.
like all over the place, right? With good
Yeah.
hoagie rolls, good soft Italian hoagie rolls. That to me is a great way to elevate your tailgate.
That's some great recommendations right there. In fact, I'm going to change my order for this weekend to the sausage and peppers and onions. That sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay, you're a food guy. Would you say that you're a food guy? Is that a proper term?
I'm a food eating guy. Like I like to eat food. I like to find hole in the wall places to eat, and then and I like to grill. I like to cook a little bit, but I'm not like a food critic, or I'm
Right.
not an aficionado of anything, but I enjoy eating.
Yeah. My wife and I like to say that some people, they eat to live,
Right.
right? But we live to eat.
Yeah. So my wife and I do that as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
We both live to eat.
Yeah, that's good. What this episode 1 has just been spectacular. What else do we want to cover before all the people decide to cut off here?
Um, I don't know. I think we hit it pretty good.
We did.
Yeah, I think we hit it pretty good. Um,
Oh, one more bonus quack. I got one more. This is
okay. What
this
do
is
you got?
big time stuff. Okay, so apparently it is true that Taylor Swift is in fact dating Travis Kelce.
Yeah, I think that is true.
Right, it's got to be.
Well, I mean, why else would she be sitting with his mom in the private box there?
Would be quite the coincidence.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I think we've discerned here
And
today
I
that
like
they're
how
dating.
I like how they're like trying to put out football nuggets and knowledge tips for Swifties. People that
Right.
are going to follow football now because they are fans of hers, but they really probably don't know if football is stuffed or filled with air.
That's true. They don't. They really got to extend an olive branch to those Swifties. You don't want to have any bad blood.
No,
Right.
no.
So there we
Let's
go.
blend the worlds together.
That's right. Bring them together, which is what you and I are doing here on the Man in Black podcast.
Yeah.
And so it's been a good one.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining me, and we're going to do it again next week. We hope, we believe.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. If
Yeah.
we can get, you are the technical guru. So as long as you can get us on, up and running, we'll be okay.
Yeah. Well, relying on me as the technical guru is that's stretching, but we'll do it. So, all right. Thanks everybody for listening. This is the Man in Black podcast, episode 1. Thanks again. We'll see you. Happy college football Saturday.